The ZACK Files, Me and My Mummy. Chapter 1. I've never gotten along with older kids. Then I met a kid who was 3,000 years old, and he was one of the nicest kids I ever met. Okay, maybe I'm getting ahead of my story. My name is Zach, and I'm in the 5th grade at the Horace Hyde-White School for Boys in New York City. My mom and dad are divorced, and I spend half my time with each of them. The half that I spend with my dad is always when weird stuff happens to me, like the time I'm going to tell you about. Dad had just bought me a new bike for my birthday. A 24-speed mountain bike. It was the coolest thing you've ever seen. Well, actually, you haven't seen it. But if you had, you'd think it was cool. Anyway, I took it on a pretty long ride in Central Park. When I came home, Dad said to take my bike down to the basement and put it in our storage space. I have to tell you that the basement in our apartment building is one of the 3 creepiest places in the world. Everybody in the building stores junk down there. There are spider webs all over the place. The lights usually aren't working. In winter the furnace makes creepy noises. And a kid named Cyril in the building told me an old janitor died down there, either died or was killed, I forget which. Cyril says at night you can sometimes hear his ghost moaning. So anyway, there I was in the basement. I didn't hear the dead janitor moan. But no sooner did I get my bike into our locker than I saw something interesting in the storage bin next to ours. It belongs to our neighbor, Mrs. Teradash, the one who has all these weird stuffed squirrels and rabbits in her apartment. What I saw in her space was a battered-up old wooden box with a funny shape. I thought it was a case for a bass violin. I've always wanted to learn how to play a musical instrument. If Mrs. Teradash had an old bass violin that she wasn't using, maybe she'd let me learn to play it. Mrs. Teradash's bin wasn't even locked. I went inside it. Don't ask me why, because it was plenty creepy down in the basement. And once I got inside, I saw that the case was definitely not for a bass violin. Now that I was up close, I could see that the box was in the shape of a body. Don't ask me why. But I decided to open it. It was tough to get the cover off the body-shaped box. Once I did, I wished I hadn't. It was too dark in the basement to see much, but it was light enough to see what was inside the case. It wasn't a bass violin. It looked like a human body. A not very big human body, about my size and completely wrapped in cruddy old bandages from head to toe. Suddenly I knew what I was looking at. I had just opened a mummy case. And underneath all those cruddy old bandages was a real live mummy, actually, a real dead mummy. The thought made my skin crawl. But as creeped out as I was also pretty interested. It didn't smell as bad as I thought it would. It smelled a little like dried hay. I leaned closer to get a good look at the mummy. That was when it moved its arms. I completely freaked out. I screamed and slammed the cover of the mummy case. Then I got the heck out of there. I didn't even wait for the elevator. I ran up the stairs, screaming the whole way. Chapter 2. Calm down, Zach, said Dad. What are you so excited about? A mummy! I shouted. A mummy is in the basement. What? Somebody's mom is in the basement? No, a mummy. A dead person wrapped in bandages. And it's alive. You're not making sense, Zach. How could there be a mummy in the basement? And how could a dead person be alive? I grabbed Dad's wrist. I'll show you. Come on. Hurry. What's the rush? Dad asked. If it's a dead person, it's not going anywhere. Dad was not taking me seriously. So down in the basement, I dragged Dad over to Mrs. Teradash's bin. I pointed at the mummy case. I pointed at the open mummy case. There. Wow, said Dad. It is a mummy case. Mrs. Teradash told me she went to Egypt a couple months ago. This must be something she brought back as a souvenir. When can we ask her about it? Not for a few months, said Dad. A few days after she got back from Egypt, she left for a trip to India. I should tell you that I don't get along too well with things from Egypt. Once on a class trip to the Temple of Dendar, I got scratched by an Egyptian cat goddess and started turning into a cat. But that's another story. Let's take a look inside that mummy case, said Dad. I'm sure Mrs. Teradash won't mind. He walked up to the mummy case. I couldn't look. Zack, said Dad. There's nothing here. The mummy case is empty. What? I said. I walked over to the mummy case and looked inside. He was right. The mummy was gone. Dad, you've got to believe me, I said. The thing was here 3 minutes ago. I swear. Then I noticed something. A little sign on the front of the mummy case. What's that? I said. I pointed to the sign. Can you read what it says? Dad leaned close to the mummy case and squinted at the sign. Oh, it's, nothing, he said. He seemed a little nervous. Nothing? How could it be nothing? Oh, it's just some kind of a warning or something, he said. I wouldn't take it seriously. Let me see it, I said. I leaned close to the mummy case and squinted at the sign. Here is what it said: whosoever disturbs the sleep of the mummy will be cursed. This not a joke. Chapter 3. That night, I just couldn't get to sleep. At midnight, I went into the kitchen. What's wrong? Why can't you get to sleep? Dad asked. Are you kidding me? I said. Didn't you see what that sign said? Whosoever disturbs the sleep of the mummy will be cursed. Who do you think disturbed the sleep of the mummy? Me. I wouldn't take it seriously, said Dad. There's no such thing as a curse. Oh no? I said. What about the time? We were in Hawaii and I was cursed by that volcano goddess? Okay, said Dad. That was a curse. But it was different. How was it different? I asked. Well, for one thing, it was in Hawaii. For another thing, it was a volcano goddess, not a mummy. And for another thing, Dad's voice trailed off. We looked at each other. Dad shrugged. I really don't think this curse was like that curse, he said. When I finally got to bed, I insisted that Dad put a nightlight in my room. I haven't needed a nightlight in my room since I was a little boy. I kept thinking about the mummy I saw. I wondered where it was now. It had to still be in the building somewhere. Walking around, trying to find the person who opened the mummy case. Trying to find me. Just as I was about to fall asleep, I heard something at the front door, scratching to get in. Dad! I screamed. Dad rushed into my room right away. "Zack, what it is?" "The front door," I shouted. "Something's trying to get in." Dad started to open the door. "Wait," I said. "We need protection." Dad grabbed a broom. All I could find was a frying pan. With broom and frying pan in front of us, we carefully opened the front door. There was nothing there. But on the door were scratches. Deep scratches. Chapter 4. "We've got a mummy loose in our building," I announced at school the next morning. "Oh yeah," said Andrew Clancy. "Well, we had a zombie loose in our building last week. The week before that we had a werewolf." Andrew Clancy always tries to top anything anybody says. Nobody takes him very seriously. "How do you know you have a mummy loose in your building?" asked Spencer Sharp. "He's my best friend and the smartest kid in the school." "Because I saw it," I said. I opened this mummy case, and there it was, all wrapped in these yucky bandages. It looked like a kid or something. And then it started to move. "What did you do?" asked Spencer. "You kidding me?" I said. "I ran." "Why?" "What would you do?" "I would have stayed to observe its behavior." "Yeah, right," I said. "My parents wanted to buy me a mummy for my birthday," said Vernon Manchufel. "It was either that or a tree house. I chose the tree house. It has cable TV, 2 bathrooms, and a sauna. Vernon is this really rich kid in our class who sweats a lot. He's always trying to impress us with how rich he is. Nobody takes him very seriously either." Mrs. Coleman-Levin walked into the class and sat down at her desk. She is our homeroom teacher and my science teacher as well. "Good morning, boys," she said. "Please pass your homework up the aisle to my desk." "Mrs. Coleman-Levin," said a kid named Ben Lerner, "there is a mummy loose in Zack's apartment building." "Is this true, Zack?" asked Mrs. Coleman-Levin. "Yes, ma'am," I said. "I saw it moving. Then I ran away. And when I came back it was gone." Have you ever heard of a mummy doing something like that? "Rarely," said Mrs. Coleman-Levin. "If you have any further contact with this mummy, Zack, do let us know." That night as I was getting ready for bed, I felt a little less nervous. It had been more than 24 hours. Nobody had seen or heard anything about the mummy. Nothing bad had happened to me. Maybe there wasn't a curse after all. Maybe the mummy had gone to another building in another neighborhood in another country. I turned off the light and went to sleep. That night I had weird dreams. I was in Vernon's tree house, in the sauna. Suddenly, a zombie walked in. He wanted to use the sauna and he kicked me out. Then the tree house turned into the Temple of Dender. I was looking at a painting of a mummy. The mummy in the painting started unwrapping itself. Underneath, it was a werewolf. The werewolf smelled like dried hay. Then, gradually, I woke up. You know how sometimes when you wake up you think you're still in a dream? That's how I felt. In fact, I could still smell the dried hay. As my eyes grew accustomed to the dark, I saw something so creepy I stopped breathing. There was somebody standing at the foot of my bed. Oh, please, I thought, let it be my dad. But if it was my dad, why did he smell like dried hay? And why was he so short? Dad, I whispered, "Is that you?" There was no answer. With my heart beating in my throat, I slowly reached for the switch on my bedside lamp. I turned it on. Yikes! Standing at the foot of my bed was the mummy. I screamed. "Oh, please, kind sir, do not be afraid," said the mummy. Its voice was the voice of a kid. A kid with a very hoarse voice. A voice that hadn't been used in thousands of years. Who are you?" I said when I could speak. What are you doing in my room?" "My name," said the mummy, "is Ignatun. Ignatun II, to be exact. But you can call me Icky." "Icky?" I repeated. "Yes," said the mummy. "Kind sir, can you tell me where I am?" "You're in Manhattan." "I have not heard of such a place, kind sir," said the mummy. "In what part of Egypt is this Manhattan?" "Manhattan isn't in Egypt," I said. "It's in the state of New York. In the United States of America. In North America. You've been asleep for quite a while." "Asleep?" said the mummy. "For how long a time?" "Pretty long." "But this is terrible," said the mummy. "My homework is overdue. My instructor will kill me." I gulped. This conversation was beyond weird. But somehow I wasn't so scared anymore. How could I be scared around someone who was so polite and kept calling me kind sir? "I don't think you need to worry about your instructor anymore," I said. "Indeed?" said the mummy. "How can you be sure?" "Trust me," I said. "By the way, my name is Zack." "It is pleasant to meet you, Zack," said the mummy. "But I am frightened and hope you can help me." "You're frightened?" I said. "Of what?" "Someone is following me. I don't know who it is or what they want. They hide in the shadows. It makes me very uneasy." "Well," I said, "I can't imagine who'd be following a mummy." "Nor can I. Also, I have not eaten for quite a few years, kind sir. May I kindly ask you for some food?" "Sure," I said. "Come on into the kitchen." I took the mummy into the kitchen. "By the way," I said, "there was a sign on your mummy case that said whoever disturbed the sleep of the mummy would be cursed." "What, exactly, is the curse?" "Oh, you know," said the mummy. "The usual. Things begin falling off the body of the person who was cursed. Fingers, toes, noses, that sort of thing." Yikes! I felt dizzy. I grabbed the kitchen counter and held on tight. "Why, you're saying my fingers and toes are going to start falling off now?" I asked. "Oh, my. No," said the mummy. "You didn't disturb my sleep. I was awake already when you opened my mummy case." Phew! What a relief that was. I wasn't sure what mummies ate, so I fixed him a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. The clock on the wall said 2:10 a.m. Boy, what an hour to be making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for a mummy in my kitchen. I handed him the sandwich. "I thank you from the bottom of my heart, Zack," said the mummy. "What is this?" "A peanut butter and jelly sandwich," I said. "Ah," said the mummy. "Even before tasting it, I know I shall love it." He took a bite, chewed it, and swallowed it. Then he threw up. That was the point. At which Dad walked into the kitchen, rubbing his eyes. Then he stopped, stared, and rubbed his eyes some more. Can somebody please tell me what a mummy is doing throwing up in my kitchen at 2:10 a.m.? Dad asked. Dad, this is the mummy I was telling you about, I said. His name is Ignatin. Icky, this is my dad. Delighted to make your acquaintance, said Icky. He threw up the rest of the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Icky said he was hungry, Dad. So I made him a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I guess he's not used to American food. Don't worry, I'll clean it up. Good, said Dad. He turned to go. One less thing for me to do. He can sleep in your room tonight, Zack. I guess by now Dad doesn't get so fazed by the sudden appearance of a mummy. He wasn't nearly this calm when Zeke,